All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever thought you could learn a language while you're doing a science experiment? Well, today we are mashing up biology and Spanish to show you exactly how that works. We are about to turn your kitchen into a lab and a classroom all at the same time.
Yeah, you heard that right. Learn Spanish with a Petri dish. I know, it sounds a little weird, doesn't it? But stick with me because we're going to show you how watching a tiny world grow in a dish can actually unlock some of the trickiest parts of Spanish grammar. It's a really fun, hands-on way to learn. And to help us out, we've got a story. So, I want you to meet Juan. He's our scientist for the day, and his lab isn't some high-tech facility. Nope, it's his kitchen. We're going to follow along with his experiment and see what he discovers.
Okay, first things first. Before we get into the Spanish, we got to set up the science. So let's take a peek into Juan's kitchen laboratory and see what he's up to.
So, the stars of our little show today? Bacteria. Now, these are teeny tiny organisms that are, well, literally everywhere. Your kitchen sink, your phone, even inside our own bodies. Some are good for you, but some are not so good. Juan is really curious about what's hanging out in his house.
And you know, this is something you could totally try at home. It's surprisingly simple. First, Juan gets a Petri dish with something called agar. Think of it like a Jell-O snack for bacteria. Then he just swabs his kitchen sink, seals up the dish, and then, well, the waiting game begins. He's just going to watch and see what fascinating little world starts to grow.
Okay, so the experiment is cooking. Now, a few days pass and the first little signs of life start to show up. This is the observation phase. And this, right here, is where our science project officially turns into a language lesson.
So just imagine Juan leaning over his Petri dish and he sees these little colonies popping up. What's the first thing he says? In his excitement, he exclaims, "Mira cómo crecen," which means, look how they grow. See, he's not just being a scientist, he's actively practicing his Spanish. As Juan keeps watching, he starts building this little toolkit of phrases. He sees a new spot and asks, ¿Qué es eso? What is that? He's totally amazed, so he says, Esto es fascinante. This is fascinating. And then he starts wondering, ¿De dónde vienen? Where did they come from? These are perfect, practical phrases for any curious person, whether you're into science or just learning a language. Okay, so now we're going to get a little more complex. See, Juan isn't just saying simple things. His experiment is happening over time, right? Which gives us the perfect opportunity to tackle Spanish tenses and talk about the past, present, and future of his little bacteria colonies.
Let's start by looking ahead. When Juan wants to talk about what he thinks is going to happen, he uses the future tense, or as they say in Spanish, el futuro. This is all about describing things that haven't happened yet.
For instance, right at the start of his experiment, he might make a prediction. He'd say, Las bacterias crecerán. They will grow. Did you see how the verb crecer changed to crecerán? That little ending is our clue that we're talking about the future.
Okay, the future is pretty straightforward. But what about all the stuff he's already seen? How does he write down his results? This is where Spanish gets super interesting, because it doesn't just have one past tense, it has two.
And here is the absolute key difference. The preterite tense is for actions that are totally done, finished. Think of it like taking a photo, a single completed moment. The imperfect, on the other hand, is for things that were ongoing or happen regularly in the past. It's more like watching a video of what used to happen.
Let's look at his logbook to see this in action. If Juan writes, Las bacteria crecieron, he's saying they grew. It's a fact, it happened, it's over. But if he writes, Las bacteria crecían, he means they were growing. He's describing the continuous process that he was observing day after day. It's the same root verb, but a tiny change in the ending gives it a whole different feel.
Here's a textbook example of the preterite. See the word ayer? That means yesterday, a specific, completed chunk of time. The colonies grew. The action started, it finished, it's done. A clean, simple fact for his logbook. Now, let's switch to the imperfect. Think about Juan's daily habit, cada día, every day. To describe this routine, this repeated action, he uses the imperfect. He miraba the dish, which means he was looking at it or he used to look at it every day. It wasn't a one-time thing, it was his ongoing process. And to bring it all home, Juan looks to the future again. He starts to dream a little, thinking, Estas bacterias ayudarán a curar enfermedades. These bacteria will help cure diseases. From past observations to his hopes for the future, the grammar itself tells the complete story of his scientific journey.
So, we followed Juan's experiment all the way from a simple cotton swab to this big dream for the future. So what's the big idea here? What's the real takeaway for you?
Here it is. The real secret to learning a language, just like doing science, is not about memorizing a bunch of dry facts from a book. It's about connecting what you're learning to something you actually care about. Juan didn't just study grammar rules, he lived them by talking about his passion. So my question for you is, what's your petri dish? Now, you don't actually have to go grow bacteria, but find something you're passionate about. Maybe it's cooking or video games or gardening, and turn that into your own personal language lab. So go out there and ask yourself, what will you discover?